Welcome to the space where creators have aligned a positive and intellectual collab of open minds. For sharing and learning from one another, it's a vibe. We do also podcast on the mic. Subscribe, educators spitting bars. I guess you didn't know I'm multifaceted and humble, taking off life goals. The classroom is my comfort zone where I plant and sow seeds of knowledge, compassion, empathy, and hope. Reading is the key to unlocking your potential. Countless benefits, including cognitive and mental. Regardless of the genre, books are highly influential. Go get yours, I'll get mine. Making strides, monumental. Come walk with me and get down to this new jam. With my friends, I had a very simple plan. Educate the masses through books and life lessons. It's the grand slam. I'm out. Tala falava, malo elele, and welcome to the Reads with Rosa podcast. I am so excited to introduce today's guest. He is a musician, sound engineer, graphic artist, and a father. He is part of the Te Karanga Trust, who run creative youth development programs, mentoring our rangatahi. He's an Emcee, known to many as northcityrizzy.
Hey.
Welcome to the show, Rizván Tu'itahi.
Thank you for having me, man. It's an honor. My Lord Ali. Great to be here, and I'm blessed to have the opportunity to share my story and just to connect with another Pacifica person, across the globe. And just to share stories.
Thank you, bro, man. Honestly, just a little bit excited, trying to contain my excitement. It's an honor. It is such an honor. I appreciate your time. I know you are super busy, so just thank you for coming into the space. Before we get started, I'll just hand it over to you just to, give us a brief introduction, and then we'll get going.
Cool. Malo lele, kia ora everybody. Ko ki ngā ko Rizván Tu'itahi, ko lele mai me pukotala hapai, mo to whoa tonga tapu, ko nofo heni nusilani o kalani. My name is Rizván Tu'itahi, Tongan, Baha'i, North Shore represent, born and raised in the islands, but been in Aotearoa for the majority of my life. And I've been around Auckland City and do youth work, a little bit of music, and blessed to be here.
Man, this guy, you are super humble. He's like, a little bit of music. We'll get into that, folks. We will get into that. This guy is super humble. I want to ask about your name, because Rizván, I was doing some research and I was like, I'm going to ask, can you tell us, because I'm sure there's a really cool meaning to your name. Where does that name originate from?
So Rizván is a name from the religion that I belong to, which is the Baha'i faith. It's originally an Arabic name, so it's spelled Ridvan, Ridvan.
Right.
But because it's my religion is from Persia, or now it's called Iran, they pronounce their names with a Z instead of a D. So that's where the remix comes from, and they pronounce it Rizván, or when you hear the Persians say it, they're like Rizván. But Rizván means paradise, and I was born into the faith, and my parents just blessed me with the name, and I've just carried it since. These people don't believe me. They're like, "Oh, that's a mean rap name, my bro. What does it mean? Is it your hit? Is it a Tongan name?" Or...
No, I had to ask it because when I looked it up, I was just like, "Yo, it must be related to his religion." But I gotta ask. I'm so curious.
Yeah.
So then, tell us, growing up on the shore, being Baha'i, being Tongan. Man, what was that like? Culture shock, coming over to New Zealand.
Yeah, it's a bit of a remix because it's pretty rare for Pacifica to be involved with any religion other from Christianity. So being born into it in Tonga, it wasn't too rare because we had a big Baha'i community in Tonga. Even when you go to Tonga now, you'll meet a lot of Baha'is. But coming from Tonga to New Zealand, culture shock. We had come to visit a couple of times and just spent most of the time with family. And even on the shore, there's pockets of Tongan community, Samoan community. And when we first came, my first experience of Auckland was in a little area called Northcote, where my mom's sister lives. And we came and stayed here for almost a year. And Northcote's mainly state housing. Even on, it's on the shore, but that's where a lot of government housing was, and that's where we lived. And it was just brown. and then we went back to Tonga, and then my dad had an accident in Tonga, but we were holidaying here another year, and then he had to come back to New Zealand for an operation. So we ended up kind of shifting just to be with him, and then ended up staying. And his family, they had come and started in Grey Lynn with everybody else in Ponsonby. And then when the Dawn raids happened, my granddad was like talking to my dad's older brothers who were here working. Where are we going? Like where are we off to? Like the options were like New Lynn, Otara, like Onehunga. But my granddad was like, let's go somewhere where it's close to a hospital, and it's they kind of just saw it as a trap, the state housing getting caught in the system, being beneficiaries, just kind of depending on the government. So my granddad's kind of set that up, and when they moved to the shore, they all just settled there. My dad's got there's like 11 of them, so and majority of them were here working, so they all just worked together. Found this piece of land in Glenfield and worked together. Bought another property, split everybody. Work. Bought another property, work, and they just kept grinding. And they started a Tongan Methodist church in Northcote. And so that was like 70s and 80s. By the time my family came in '94, they were already settled on the shore. And I think that's why I rip it so hard, because like, why wouldn't I be proud of that legacy that my grandparents, my granddad had like brought all my dad's siblings and that. We were one of the last to come from Tonga. But yeah, culture shock, Pālangis everywhere, growing up with all these Pākehās around. We didn't have much. But yeah, it's kind of weird because we felt like everyone else was over the bridge, all the family and like all the other islanders. They were kind of like struggling. We were kind of struggling together, with cousins in like out west and out south and central. We were all together, and we were kind of like, I wouldn't say we were like struggling poor, but we didn't have a lot. But we were kind of going through that in front of these Pālangis, and like a rich neighborhood, and it's a nice area. Like Glenfield's a nice suburb. It's not like state houses or anything like Northcote and Beach Haven, the surrounding, suburbs. So it was cool though to be exposed to other cultures, because there was heaps of Filipinos when I was growing up in high school, and South Africans, and it's cool. I think it's a good place to be raised and be opened up to different ethnicities, and get to know other people and just connect. But I definitely didn't appreciate it until I left the shore. I felt like everyone else was on the other side, and I was like, oh. Everyone's like, oh yeah, what a rich guy, the cousins like, man, you guys must be balling to be living out there. And it's like, I was blessed, like definitely, like it was cool to be out there. And I think I didn't realize that it made me unique. Once I kind of got involved in the music and that, and then like everyone else was like, oh, my name's Savage from Manurewa. I'm Mareko from Rewa, and this from Mangere, and everyone's from like West or Central, and I was just like, oh, I'm not sure, like. But I think the more I got into it and grew comfortable in my own skin and confident, I was like, now I gotta throw the flag up, like not for me, but for my little cousins, because I got like we got like 36 first cousins in my dad's family, and like they're gonna be looking at me. I mean, just in the music field, and I want them to be proud. That's part of our legacy. That's part of our heritage. Settling on that side of the bridge, and so for me as a young fan of hip hop, no one was coming out of my area. So where's my template? Who am I gonna? Little kids from Central will be looking at Shefu and going, "Yo, that's me. We Ponsonby, we Central Auckland." Like we have someone that's up there, and it wasn't just Shefu. There's so many, and we just had no one on that side on the north. So I was just like, "Hey, man, I'm not the first, because there was heaps of other crews that were doing their thing, but I'm gonna definitely be. I'm gonna make my mark for sure." So I've been throwing it up, and people were like, "Man, what do you gotta represent? Like every verse you rap, you gotta mention it. Like we get it." Like I was like, "Hey, man, if I pass and someone hears one of my songs, and if I mention that, this is just part of my thing. It's like my trademark. I'm the ambassador for North Harbour.
Yes, I think it's, you know what, I think it's great that you rep hard because, thank you for sharing, about your upbringing, living out there on the shore. Because, my parents, our family, well, my dad's older sister and her husband brought everyone over, bit by bit. And they actually were established out in Mairangi Bay. So and then later on, they moved over to Emcee, like West Auckland. So all us and the cousins, we all grew up there. But it's like a family tradition where every year, or when I come home, like around Christmas, New Year's, we're like, let's go for a drive down to Mairangi Bay. My dad tells these stories from because they didn't settle in Greyland. They were in our south. Although we had my dad's first cousins, they were relatives. But, it's like so rare to hear islanders. They came and went straight to the North Shore. So I love listening to my dad's stories. But the church they went to was over in Henderson, so out West Auckland. So I think eventually that's why. With the Samoan church there that started in Greyland, and then they established other branches, and one was in Henderson. So eventually everyone moved out west. So, but we're always still like, our Mairangi Bay tradition.
That's cool. I mean, that's part of your history, your heritage as well. Like, I think it's just acknowledging it. It's it's kind of cool to see the journey, and it's like a little win. Especially if you're just coming from the islands. It doesn't matter where you end up, whether it is Otara or, like Otahu, like it's part of your history. And that's why I acknowledge Northcote, because Glenfield is my area. Like that's what I represent. It's hard, like that's where I'm at, and my family is still out there, my grandparents and all that. But Northcote is where all the Tongans were. And the boys that came to my school, and my mum's family were there. And so even though we only stayed there for a year back in the late 80s, like it really left an impression on me, like, because that's what I thought New Zealand was about. Like, there was heaps of brown people, because I thought Aotearoa was like the land of Māori. And so when we came back again in the early 90s and lived in Glenfield, I was like, where's all the brown people? Where's all the brown people gone? But you grow up and you understand, but that's cool. It's cool to hear your history as well, and there's a lot of families that did settle firstly on the shore, that I met with, even from like Devonport. I know other Hamels from Mairangi Bay, Sunnynook, Beach Haven. There's a lot of Samoans in Beach Haven, Birkdale. But for the others on the other side of the bridge, they're like, no, sure, it's like Australia or something. They're like, they never know. We know the bridge, and then that's it. Like anything after that, it's like, oh yeah, I heard of Albany.
Yeah. Well, everyone has heard of Long Bay because of the church, beach trips, right? Like, that's like the big trick from south over into North Shore. That's like North Shore.
It's like a road trip.
It's interesting. You mentioned struggle, right? Because I feel it's like, when we have these conversations about where we're from in Auckland, it's like, if you're from a certain area, you don't know struggle. But, as you mentioned, there's like different types of struggle. And it's just, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like our parents, any islander parents, made that, they made so many sacrifices, settled in different areas of Auckland. Like, struggle looks different, but doesn't mean you don't know struggle.
Definitely.
So.
I think even with like rich Barangis, like the situation or the scenarios might be different, but the pain is still the same. Like they might be like stressing over like mortgages, and we're just stressing over rent, but the stress is still felt. Like it's still painful, it's still hard. And who are we to judge others' pain, others' struggles? I think one thing I was talking about with one of the youngins in my programs the other night is focusing on your lane, and just like figuring out where your direction is and where you're headed, and stop looking over at the other lanes, because if you keep looking, you're going to crash. or you're not gonna see where you're going, and something's gonna happen. You know, you just focus on your lane, man. Like people every now and then, but don't focus on others. Just do your thing and just keep moving forward. But yeah, that's true.
Great advice. You know, I want to talk about music, like your you know, is it in the blood? Like, were your parents musicians, or through church were you learning acting and singing? And you know, where does that come from? Because obviously you evolved later and became an MC. You know, you're involved in like hip hop, you know, the hip hop community. But where is the beginning of that? Like, at what point were you like, yo, this is me, this is something I'm going to pursue? When did it become real? Is it something that you saw every day in Tonga?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So as I mentioned before, we came in '94 to New Zealand. That's when we moved over. But '93, and prior to '93, it was just reggae, like Lucky Dube, UB40, Jimmy Cliff, you know, Peter Tosh, all of that stuff. Like just reggae influence back in the islands, and you know, a bit of local Tongan stuff as well. But in '93, there was a new TV channel that opened up, and we had just got our first TV. And so when this channel opened up, they had a program called TV3 Jams with a Z, and I was like, with a Z? Yeah, this breakthrough stuff, man. I was like, what? Oh man. And so they had all these music videos from the States, and it was like Dr. Dre, Cypress Hill, Criss Cross, Naughty by Nature, all this stuff. And I was like, I've heard this because other cousins have bought cassette tapes, or when we came to New Zealand, I heard some other music that I was like, it was appealing to me. But when that hit, me and my brother were like, whoa, I want to be like these guys. So like even in Tonga, as a kid, I was trying to like wear my baggy clothes and like put my clothes on backwards, like
crisscross.
Yeah. And so after all that, and then when my dad had an accident, we came here for his operation and ended up staying here. '94, golden year. Like we came to New Zealand on that year, early '94. Snoop Dogg dropped, Warren G dropped, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Notorious B.I.G. album dropped, like Wu-Tang, like Method Man, like all of that stuff dropped that year. And we had just come here. Cypress Hill, Ice Cube, like that was the golden year for me. Like and yeah, I just absorbed everything. We're just so like fascinated with the style, the imagery, the sounds, the slang. And like my mom's family are all from the States. They're all in California. So and my granddad's like buried out there. So we had that connection. And I was always like, one day I'm gonna, you know, go over there and see my family and like be a part of this music thing. But obviously it was just stuck in the shore. And then we just started experimenting. School was the experimental stage, imitating, you know, trying to be like rappers like Exhibit, trying to be like Daz, who's a rapper from Dog Pound, Snoop's cousin. Trying to be Biggie every now and then, you know, just the classics, trying to be Jay-Z and just imitating. And then I think after high school, after all that imitating and trying to be other people, you start finding yourself in that sound, you know, start finding your own stories and finding a way to share your story through that medium. I was trying to rap like street stuff, but you know, I'm ain't about that life. Like I'm from a strict ass like education and home, you know, like sheltered ass, but all of these stories in my imagination was blowing up. So I was just trying to like copy these dudes. But finally I was able to put my story in some of my writing and just keep honing my craft and, you know, imitating other people until it became my own thing and then my own story. And then even years later, my own accent, which is a big thing, you know, to let go. I still have minor like American pronunciations because that's what I'm used to. But yeah, you kind of find yourself in it, and it's such a. I'm just talking about it now. It's such a beautiful like transformation for me to get there, and there's so many other milestones that contributed to that. Like one was Tom Scott, who's the rapper from Homebrew.
Remember.
He dropped in '07, and like he came with the accent heavy, the Cuban accent, and he just made it. He just opened up the floodgates. We were like, bro, you sound good. You make it. You make it. You know, you look good with the accent, and you come through, and you got the whole Cubiana slang stories and like all the references. And I was like, oh mate. So I just took from that, added to my thing, and yeah, carried on. And I'm here today, still jamming away.
How have you managed to just stay and I don't want to say game, but to stay on the hip hop scene, to stay, and how have you managed to be an MC in all this time, right? Because surely life, happens, and like in terms of creating music, it's I imagine it takes a lot of hard work and dedication, not just, the writing your stories, but then getting into the production, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
how have you managed to just stay connected in all these years? Because you're super humble. I mean, let me just say, right? You are super humble because honestly, like when I do like I think I know someone, like because I'm kind of seeing what they're doing, but then when I researched you, I mean, you have done so much, and you've already done 5 albums, which is, I feel like in New Zealand, that's huge. If you're a rapper, that's huge. And you've been on the scene for so long. You're writing for other people. I mean, I'm going to get into your achievements, as we go on. But I mean, even your body of work, like, and you've talked about, growth as an artist. Like, how do you, with life going on, side, and how have you managed to stay here for so long?
Man, I feel like it's just been a passion project. This whole man, and people that I'm like collaborating with and like working with now, they're gonna buzz out because I didn't even mention it. And like this has been like 20 years this year that I've been like actually recording. And but it's funny because it was only 10 years in the last 10 years that I released as Rizván. So it was like a second win. Like it
Yeah.
was a second phase for me. Um, so to staying relevant or staying in tune with everything, because bro, people my age, we ain't trying to listen to all the new stuff. My boys
Right.
ain't trying to like. They're like, little who's that? What? I don't know who that is? Little baby. They're
Yeah.
still Tupac in the garage. They're still like listening to those classics that we still jam, but they ain't got time to be, up to date with all the new who's and all the new artists and new music. They've got what they've got, and they're just gonna stick to that. And I feel like because I'm so passionate about music, I feel like you need to grow with the time and like evolve. But not everyone's that passionate about music, so I don't blame people for like not knowing who. Some boys didn't even know like Kendrick, like who's that? Like you trying to hear no Kendrick, but I've intentionally done that. Like I've done this on purpose. I've listened to everything. I've kind of trained my ear. Like it's like your taste buds. Some people they're not into oysters, and then one day you give it a try and be like, oh, and you try it again a week later and be like, oh, and you're kind of like developing and enhancing and expanding yourself musically. Same thing. You just gotta keep trying different things and then training yourself to firstly understand, and then you'll start to appreciate what it is, And even to this day, man, there's heaps of artists and sounds that I'm just like, oh man, I'm not gonna lie, I can't even get into that right now. I'm gonna have to sit down and take it on. But I think I've just enjoyed it so much. And I've had heaps of supportive people around me. Like my parents are kind of like, you need to go study and get, graduate with a piece of paper. you need to get some qualifications. But they're still being like, yeah, do your thing. You know, you can still do your music. They support. They're really grateful for what I've done. My wife, she's been like always pushing me. She lets me do my music. I always wherever I live, I always have a little setup somewhere so I can get into my creative space. And at the end of the day, I'm not too fussed if people listen to it or not. Like something I'll be doing regardless. I don't know how long for, but like even the projects that I've done in the last 10 years, that was mainly for myself and maybe my closest friends that, you know, they still mess with me and like, oh yeah, I like that verse. And I do it for them and for me. And I'm just, I think, grateful that other people are listening too. And it's made it across different platforms, like, you know, made it onto Spotify and YouTube. And yeah, I'll just be, it's just an intention. That's like, I've made myself stay in the loop. Yeah.
You know, I like that song Lost in Translation because you shout out rappers, and I think you've mentioned some of them here today. Then you're also, you know, really acknowledging, you know, those who paved the way, like Kiwi crews and the pioneers. And it's crack out you talking about, like, you know, having to, you know, when you used to record like on tape cassettes and like on the VHS thing, like it's I was just like, yo, you know, like, you know, just giving flowers to those who have paved the way. And
I think as a youngin', man, like we'd admire, like would be like shocked to see other artists, other islanders on TV, you know, and there weren't too many. And the names that come to mind is the ones that shouted out of that song, like Lost Tribe, Erman, you know, like later on Scribe and Decepticons and that. But like even as a youngin', like Te Hamo, man, he's been around for a long time. King Kapisi, and they're still on, you know. I also heard King Kapisi rap the other month, and he's still sharp.
He's still got it. He's still like he's still like doing those ciphers. Like he's like, I can take all the youngins.
He's about to take. I love it. And he sees it. Like I'm out there to like murder everybody, like lyrically. Like I don't care what it is. I'm doing my best, and that's it. I think that's why he's still in it, because he's intentionally trying to be the best, and he's still hungry for it, and that's crazy. And like Shefu's still out here doing his thing. I remember when we first got into the country and Superguru was like popping off, and he was singing with that band, you know. And I'm like, oh, is that an islander? You know, on the video clips, and then he break off, did his own thing. That album was crazy. His first album was crazy. So we're just fanning, still fanning. We're fanboys of all the artists that are coming through, even the youngins. And I think the reason why I feel like I've been able to connect with a lot of the newer artists is because I give them their flowers. People keep talking about giving me flowers as I'm an oldie and, you know, being around, but even the youngins deserve flowers because it's not easy. It's not easy to take time away to focus on something like this. There's not much money in the music, you know, unless you're super commercial and killing it like Savage, you know, and Scribe was doing before. But there's so many artists out there, so many talented people, and it's all a passion project for the most part. Like there's not that much money in it unless you're touring everywhere in Australia and all that. But if you're in it, man, you know what it is, you know. But you just gotta keep pushing. So when I see youngins come up and really give it their all, I'm just like, I'll just message. Like I don't have any problem or like ego. We all have egos, but I don't have an ego to the point where I'm not being like, oh, that guy's bad. I'm gonna try like beat him or like, oh, I'm just gonna ignore him or like, you know. Honestly, there's some of the youngins intimidate me because they're so good, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta step up, man. I gotta keep sharp. But I'll still message and go, bro, I love that song you dropped. The video was bad, like, you know, and they're just like, oh man, it's good to hear from my OG, and I'm like, man, they call me an OG, bro. You know, like I know my beard is growing up and all that, but like, bro, I'm still jamming. I'm with you. We're in the same waka. We're still on the journey. We're just artists. We're just creatives. Don't put anybody on the pedestal because you liked the song and you thought they were bad. No, bro, we're just creatives.
You know that Red Bull 64 bars, you know, like David Dallas was like handpicking like MCs, because it was there that I realized, I was like, oh, Rizván. Like when I saw that, when that came out, I was like, damn, he's still, you know, I was like, why he's still in the game? Like, he's still recording, he's still putting out music. Man, what was that experience like for you? Were you just kind of like, oh, you know, I'm just gonna step up and do this?
Nah, that's so funny that you brought that up because, the people who were around when I was younger and when I first started in the scene, coming through like these other crews, D1 from out west and Breaking Records, and you know, I had connected with David Dallas through Breaking Rec, and all these other artists kind of seen me back then, and then I stopped. Like I went through a hiatus, and I was just working. I was just like bouncing and doing factory jobs. I actually tapped out from the dream. Like I'd given up for a little bit, and I just felt like it wasn't going anywhere. So yeah, I went to do that, and so I started after I went to study, did sound engineering, graduated, and then I decided to do my own studio and go, yeah, I'm going to record all these artists that I'm connected to, and I'll make money that way because now I'm an audio engineer. So I put the little home studio together, and nobody came. Nobody came. And you know, I was like, I should just record my demos, like the stuff I've been messing around with, or any old stuff that's still being saved. And that's how I started releasing stuff, like again. And so I decided to just stick with my name. I used to go by Young Quest or just Quest.
Yes.
Through Breaking Rec.
Yeah.
And then so dropped a couple of projects, and then Dave was like, bro, we got the 64 bars if you're keen to jump on. And so when I did do it, it was just an old song called Phoenix that I just re-rapped because it has to be 64 bars. Anyone that knows me in the game, they know I'm like the worst guy when it comes to memorizing my own lyrics, because I don't write it to know it. I just write it to let it go, and then that's it. I don't want to hear it again. I don't want to perform it. I have no intentions of performing these songs. So yeah, people name the other artists know me for that. But when I did do 64 bars, you said like, oh, Rizván. That's
because I remember you as Young Quest. That's why I was like, hey, Rizván is just Rizván. Like what?
Yeah. So it's funny because when I started that on that video, the first thing I say is "Old Man Rizzy." That's what I say on that because I'm like, this song is something old, and David Dallas is like an old connection. So I felt like he knows me. I've been around, you know, and I kind of said that just off the bat. Like I didn't mean to. It just came out like that. And I was like, man. So people like you and others, they were like, hey, he's back. Like and then there was a whole generation who was like, who's this guy? Who's this new dude? You know, like who's that new dude that's like out of nowhere? And how did he get onto 64 bars?
Right.
But people bring it up. Like I don't go, oh, bro, unless people dig and start going, bro, you know, then I'll explain it. But I don't know. It's not my role to like, you know, explain everything to everyone. So I just did it, and then heaps of people were like, "Man, how did you get on? Like, how did you?"
Yeah, because he handpicked
the connection. Yeah, it's
like,
just
who is this guy?
yeah, he's this dude from the shore, like out of nowhere, just gets a Red Bull thing, but no one knew like the steps they had taken, the journey beforehand, and the connections that were made. And I'm not gonna say me and David Dallas are like super tight. We were just in a collective together, you know.
Right.
We were just under the same umbrella, but we weren't like hanging out. But it was just just networking, and I think it was just buzzy to come out like that and get some love shown by a whole bunch of new fans, you know, or new people who appreciated that, and you're like, oh, that's bad, and just a lot of Tongans were like, yo, because the majority of Tongans, this is just my own view. They're into like a lot of commercial stuff, or like, you know, they go as far as Tupac and Biggie, but no underground, no like local.
Yeah, they're not into the indie like rappers.
It's not a really thing for them, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think the people that came across it and showed love, I was like, that's cool, because they kind of get a glimpse of what it's like in the local scene, and you know, kids that are coming up or youngins that are doing their thing. So it was cool. I really appreciated that opportunity. Shout out to Dave and Ben from Red Bull at the time. But yeah, it's just, bro, Nipsey said it's a marathon, you know? Even Switter's like my number one example when the people ask it. I'm like, you guys think these guys just popped out of nowhere? These guys have been doing this for like over 10 years. I've seen their name around and no one knew who they were, you know? And others would have known them from Kuja Lounge or like the gigs they used to do way back in the days. And I think it's a good model to look at and just understand that patience, resilience, and it's a marathon. It's not, we're not sprinting, man. Just keep at it. Things will happen. Mellow Downs, Diggy Dupe, like these dudes are like popping up now, getting some commercial success and starting to branch into that, trying to cross over into that bigger market and hopefully Australia. But they started, long time ago, man, in the garage, just like everyone else. But you can't just expect to like drop a song and and just blow up. And that brings a whole new like angle to understanding the like anxiety. Like when you release music and it doesn't pop off the way you think or you hope, you got to deal with it. You doubt yourself and all that stuff. But the depression kicks in, and you're like, man, am I even good? Like, are people even trying to hear this? It's hard. Like, I've seen so many youngins come through, passionate, so much fire. I mean, I want to do this. I want to drop this EP. I've got visuals and everything, and then merch. I want to sell merch. And then they drop that song that they put all their eggs in one basket, all their expectations, and then I'm not going to say it flops, but it doesn't do as good as they wanted it. It's just like, tap out. This is too much. There's heaps of things, mental health, all of it.
I wanted to on that because on your Gemini 3 album, the recent 2019, right? That was the last album that you released, but there's that night and day intro, and there's all these things that you're talking about in there. Like you talk about your granddad, you talk about moving from the north to the south, you talk about people passing, you hurt your back, you talk about life things, right? Being part of a village, but then there's like resentment and there's like family commitments. Like there's like that song is so powerful, man. Like, and I was thinking, because listening, when you listen to where you started and go through, each project, and then get to that, and I'm like, life goes on. Like you said, it's not about the sprinting, right? It's this marathon. It's this. And just thinking about, how you've evolved, like, can you talk about that song? Because then other things it's the family stuff, but then you're also talking about like empowering the rangatahi. So I was listening, I was like, you can hear the shift, right? I guess the mindset and priorities, you talk about overcoming mountains and things like that, and that time is precious. And in terms of what you've shared so far, I feel like that song's, wait, I could be bots and totally misreading it actually, but I feel like that song just speaks to your journey. Like, there's all these other songs that I love from your albums, but I was like, yo, this song, it's really empowering. It's, it inspires. So maybe, I don't know. Can you talk a little bit about that song?
You caught me off guard. That track was just a summary of what was going on for me and my thoughts. And honestly, I think you're right. That is probably one of the most powerful things that I've written because it was pretty honest. And I felt I was going through a lot of stuff myself. Yeah, I can't remember how I injured my back, but I injured my back and I was like on the couch for ages. My granddad just passed away. There's a switted music video that they shot during my granddad's funeral. And I didn't make it, and I felt so bad. I told Spike, I was like, "Bro, I can't. I'm about to bury my granddad. I'm not coming to a music video. Like, sorry, boy, I can't make it." And I'm not on the music video. My verse is still on there, but I'm not there. And I think that was just a testament. It's pretty much just a timestamp of that year, that period of time. We were out in Manarewa at the time. Just me and my family. And this is just before I had my youngest boy. We got an older son, and we got this young one who's here now. And there was kind of like a build up before he came. I talk about mental health and like how I was feeling a bit depressed. There's a bit of resentment there because we were kind of on the journey with Diggy and Mello was kind of like working together and collaborating. And I don't know. I just kind of had life hit me. I got married.
Mm.
I had to like focus on rent, and bills, and the music just kind of took a back seat, and they kind of moved forward. And like I'm super proud, but I'm not gonna lie, I kind of felt like
Mm.
left out. But that was my own
Right.
doing. Like this is what I chose to do. But with actions come reactions, and that was just my reaction. Like, oh man, these guys are doing good. Like I should be there, but at the same time, I'm not. Like I got to focus on here, and it's just thoughts. And it's good to reflect. It's
Mm.
not a thing. I think it's just like pouring out. But you just like you picked out a whole bunch of points that I had because I don't know the lyrics in my
Mm.
head. I can't even hear the song, but I know a few of those things that you said, and yeah, that's why I think you caught me off guard. Because I'm like, man, there's a lot of things been going on at that time, and I'm glad I was able to put that down into a song. And bro, so much has happened since then, and so the next project that I'm working on, which will be later on this year, is
Mm.
definitely gonna be on that same line from that intro, night and day. Yeah, and so that's the whole concept, and I don't think I've ever explained this. Night and day, and I got it tattooed on my leg. It's like the sun and the moon. Sorry, excuse me. The sun and the moon is being just like the light and the dark, and you're like trying to balance in between. And some days I wake up and I'm like, if the world, I don't care, like, whatever, bro, do whatever, I don't care, do your
Mm.
thing. And some days I wake up and I'm like, man, I love you, bro, like sunshine, and like love the world, like peace and harmony, and I think it's just trying to find the balance, and that's why I called that project Night and Day because
Mm.
we're all constantly going through like tunnels and ups and downs and peaks and troughs and maunga and awa, and it's just light and dark. Night and day is finding the balance, and it's okay to be spending time in both. Like that's
Mm.
life. Can't be like all jolly and happy go lucky 24/7, 365. Like,
Right.
and I think it's just accepting that's just part of living, part of the
Mm.
marathon. Not always smooth sailing. But yeah, that's a crazy thing to that you brought that up.
With your music, with your projects, I'm sorry, I'm still going on about the projects, but I want to talk about Tongan language,
Yeah,
the importance of Tongan language. What I really love, like the intros and the outros of your most of your projects, it just kind of like weaves in and out this like it's not like the Tongan language. There are like whether it's people speaking or singing, and that's so dope, bro. Like I know that your language is super important, and you're a huge advocate for keeping the language and the culture alive. Can you speak to that?
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I think when we talked about when you were introducing me and sharing, who I am, and I was sharing too about being a Baha'i, being Tongan, being from the North Shore. I think there's all aspects of ourselves, and like um, what's it called? We're multifaceted, like
Yes.
there's so many parts and angles, and we're not only just like monotone. There's colors, like there's a spectrum, and I think language is a part of uh, your anchors as an anchor to your identity or your ethnical identity.
Mm.
And for me, it's Tongan, so I'm trying to connect through language, through dance, or even just through clothing. Sometimes I wear my whakanga when I perform. Sometimes I'll
Mm.
wear a tawala and like represent, throw the flag up.
Mm.
Um, and I think why it's important is because as a youth worker, it's identity. If you don't know who you are, you're just floating. Like you're not
Mm.
anchored to anything. You're just in the air, just lost. Maybe you got a job, maybe you got a partner, maybe you got flash cars or a house, but you're not anchored to the ground like to whenua,
Mm.
And who are you? Like if you don't know that, then I think you're just not complete. So I always try to encourage and try to empower other islanders, other Pasifika youth to use their language, to like normalize that in our music, because music is another form of language, it's communication, but it's a modern thing. So the youth are like, they're down with it, it's cool, and they can accept it, they can hear it. If you have an elder talking in Tongan, going, hey, like preaching and lecturing, blocked, zoned out, cancelled, not even trying to hear it, because the form of communication is too disconnected. There's missing parts in there, and the biggest thing is the language. If your grandparents are like, speaking to you in Samoan and saying all these histories, and you're like, I could only pick up a few things, man, lost in translation, bro. Like, and then you're gonna try to pass on that little bit that you knew next to your grandchildren or your children, but you don't have the full picture because you didn't understand it fully. And then Chinese, 2-3 generations down, that story is wrong. People talk about, I'm sure Maui came from Hawaii and something happened. Like, bro, you gotta communicate. And because they didn't know, the elders, their English is limited. We gotta find the middle ground, or you gotta go back and like reconnect. Like we see all the classes that are happening around the city, like with PEC and all the Angalu classes and Tongan classes happening. People are trying to reconnect, because when you go to those sessions, you'll see heaps of oldies in there that have missed out for years. And so me incorporating it into my music, that's just my 5 cents of like, come on guys, reconnect. Like, your mother tongue is important. And I with my son, my wife's Samoan, so she speaks to him in Samoan, I speak to him in Tongan, and we just try it as much as we can, and we encourage our families. No English, just speak in Samoan, speak in Tongan. Even if you think he doesn't understand, if you normalize it, he picks it up, he'll get it, and he does now. Like, I speak to him in Tongan as much as I can. Like, probably 80%, 85% of the time, it's just Tongan. And there's things I'll tell him to like turn off the light, turn on the light. And I think he doesn't know, but he does. Because I just have to point and he'll go, oh, okay, he's saying to hit the switch. And like, it's small steps. He's going through his own marathon with language, But if you don't nourish and water that plant, it's not going to grow. And so just got to keep tapping at it bit by bit. And yeah, language, it's such a complicated thing, because at the same time, it doesn't define you as a Tongan or Samoan or anything, Because others will be like, oh, I'm like half caste, or don't worry about the fractions, bro. Like, just you're Samoan, like you're Tongan. But just because you don't know the language doesn't mean you're less Tongan than me, or less,
Exactly.
to represent. But it's just everyone's at different stages of their journeys, and you can't, just like I said, stick to your lane. Don't be judging other lanes and like looking over and going, you plastic.
Those ones.
It's not helping nobody, not even yourself. But yeah, the longest answers.
You're all good, man. This is great. This is insightful stuff, for real. I was wondering about your storytelling. Like, how do you describe your storytelling?
Musically? Well, I think I was explaining before about imitating people, and I'll take like the best parts of the people that I know. So I mentioned Exhibit. Exhibit to me was like a bit of confidence and aggression in his voice. I took a little bit of that where I can and applied it to my own thing. I took from Daz, like a dog pound rapper. He's like a gangster rapper. Talks a lot of rubbish and gang stuff, which I don't take, but I like his flow. So the way he like maneuvers his words and like his phrasing, I'll take that. And then from Nas, I'll take his stories, the way he describes, the way he like plays with words, the way he uses words that just makes you think. It's just another level. It's like there's beginners and there's intermediate, and then there's the pros.
Yeah.
When you get to that level, you're able to understand and like use words that you'd have to like look up in the dictionary, or you'll take time to contemplate. What does that mean? And I think I've just been trying to take it to that level where I can. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not like an eloquent like dude. Like my head is going like this, and then when it comes out of my mouth, it's not as good as I think. So I think that's why writing for me is such an awesome thing. So I can take my time, and then when I share a story, say like I don't know, I'll talk about an experience in high school, like maybe that prize giving where I tripped over in front of the whole school, and then and then I embarrassed myself. I'll just take that experience and then find all the words that can help me to express it as visually, as descriptive as I can, and so people can like understand. And there's a process that I share in my classes that I run in youth justice, and it's pretty much brainstorm keywords, like taking keywords from that brainstorm and then slowly structuring sentences from those. And the brainstorm to me is like, it's not the best analogy, but it's like when you have a gun and you need ammunition. If you only got 2 bullets, you might not hit, like you might miss. So when I brainstorm, I go get as many bullets as you can so you can hit your target. So as many, and I still do it. But because I'm old and I've been doing it for ages, I don't brainstorm on my paper anymore. It's just all in my head, and I do the brainstorm, and then I'll pull the keywords out, and then I'll type all the keywords, and then it's a bit of a process, but you do it long enough, and then it's like second nature.
So you're working with you're part of a lot of really cool community initiatives. Can you speak about the Navigators program, which is something with the Te Karanga Trust that you guys have been doing? There's like the OMAC one, and then is the other one at Te Oro or something like that?
There's Te Oro, which is out east. We have Central, the Wesley Community Centre, and out west at Te Manawa, which is out Westgate. And there's a new shopping centre area around there. I think it's in the library, Te Manawa. But Navigators is an initiative that was started by Te Karanga Trust, just to cater to a lot of the creatives in the community, but not just to cater to them, but also to utilize the spaces in the community. Like there's Te Oro, it's a council facility out east, but the community just pretty much walk past and they're just like, I'm not allowed in there. Like, that doesn't look like a place for me. They probably feel out of place if they went in there, but it's theirs. It belongs to them. It belongs to the community. So, and obviously there's a lot of creatives, young people who are trying to get into music, and it doesn't have to be music, it's poetry. Probably just want to connect, because we have a lot of like space to call it all and share. So we just pretty much open the spaces up for that, and it's running really well. Yeah, so we have those 4, and we also have Wahine led Navigators on Thursdays, which is also in Central, which is a whole new dynamic for Te Karanga Trust, because we've never had that many females in our team, and now we have like 3 awesome girls who are not just talented, but they're deep, like they're on. Like you can have. I've had some conversations with them, and you can just tell that they're really grounded, down to earth, and they'll be awesome mentors for the other young wahine, females to come through in the community. So yeah, we're just catering to the creatives in the community and just trying to help them through that marathon. Really, just giving guidelines for us experienced ones who are still on the marathon but have seen a little bit more and go, bro, maybe don't do that. Like try this, or come through and like talk. And I call it the dojo, like where we have our kōrero, because it's like where you practice, not just musically, but where you practice life, where you practice sharing, where you practice being vulnerable and be able to unload and share in a space where there's respect, there's no judgments. And we set that culture within the group, and we're like, bro, you guys know there's no mocking, and I make sure that no one's trying to judge anyone else and, their struggles. And yeah, it's a cool space, and I think it's really it's working wonders for a lot of the young ones who don't have that space anywhere else. it's really cool. We're just blessed to be a part of it.
You know what? When you think about being an artist, a creative, what's your biggest achievement? Like, I mean, success looks like many things. What's one of the biggest achievements for you thus far, 20 years in?
Man, I'm gonna be honest. My favorite thing that I've achieved is that people consider me a cool dude. Like, he's just a cool guy. Like, he's a good dude. That's it. He's a good dude. Oh man, that's better than any like amount of numbers I do on YouTube or Spotify. And yeah, it's deeper than that as well. But just at surface level, like I just want to leave that as as my legacy of just being a good dude who made music. And I still feel uncomfortable getting compliments and getting praises for things. So I'm still trying to like navigate through that. We all, especially as Pacifica, we're supposed to practice humility, but there's a threshold where it's too humble to a fault and it becomes an issue, it becomes a problem. So gotta find that middle ground where you're like, I can do this, and this is what I do. I'm pretty good at it. Or like people are like, bro, you're bad, bro. It's mean rap. I love that verse. And usually it's like,
imposter syndrome, right? Imposter syndrome, bro. I feel you.
Just go, thank you, and I've been practicing. Like, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Love. Oh, thanks, bro. Yeah, cheers, man. Thanks for the love. And it's like, it feels good to accept it, not just because you're not being rude, but like, trying to avoid it. But also, when you accept it, I feel like you're telling yourself, like, it's true. You're good. And why not? You've been doing it for 20 years, bro. It's not a bad thing. Like, own it. And my wife says that all the time. Like, own it. Like, that's your ability. Like, that's your talent. That's your gift. Like, own it. Just take it on and go, this is what I do. Yeah, I'm good at it. I can help you with it too. All good. Yeah.
That's awesome. Have you written a lot for other artists? Like, I don't want to be, are you a ghostwriter? But are you a ghostwriter? I know. I'm like, nah.
I don't think that's a thing here. And well, I'm not going to say not to that extent, but I've helped people with their rhymes. Like, I wouldn't write for them, but I've helped them like put their sentences together. Oh, look, bro, try this. What about this line? But it's just mostly the youngins, The other people around me that actually write, like Diggy and Mello, and that they're on a whole nother level. Like, they wouldn't need that.
Yeah.
But I think, just sharing ideas with others and like being able to. I feel like people are so precious with their art, and I used to be. I'm like, oh no, I'm not gonna share this song. They might bite it, or like, I don't want to rap this verse because they might like take my ideas.
I'd steal it.
They might steal it and bite. But I think like just gotta let it go. Like sometimes you hold on to something too long and then you suffocate it. You just gotta let it go. And if you believe in yourself and back yourself, then you know that there more goodness is gonna come, man. You're gonna have some fire bars come through. Don't worry. Let it out, man. Yeah. Because that's the thing, man. That's the actual thing in the scene, and I think around the globe of creatives, they're so precious, and they're like, oh, I don't know, I want to drop it in a few months, and and just put it in the vault, but man, it's gonna go stale, man. Drop it, let it go. You got some more fire to come through.
We had 2021 Silver Scroll Awards. They they released the top 20 list there. So do you remember that? You forgot it? You put that over there and forgot about it. So tell us a little bit about that.
Nah, that was an actual 5 cents. Like, that was a literal 5 cents to the Bros song. He showed me an idea and he goes, I can hear you sing this better than me. That was it. It was his lyrics, and I just added another extra little bit, but that was it. So I felt like I couldn't even claim that, because it was the Bird song. It was the Bird song, and he just shared like a demo with me. He was like, "Oh, Rizzy, can you re-sing this?" And I was like, "Bro, that's all good. that sounds all good as it is. He's like, nah. I hear your voice and I want you to do all those little harmony things you do. And I was like, oh, I'll give it a jam, man. And I did it, added a little bit. He was like, that's it. And then he took it, put it on his album. And it's like, yeah, it's a favorite song of mine as well because he's a mean. Yeah, shout out to Adam. He's a bad rapper. Cool. But yeah, I'm not gonna. I can't claim that, man. That's sad. That's one of those. Like,
but
can you scoop me up? I'll jump in the ride and we'll go. Like trying to hitch a ride with the homie, piggybacking on this marathon, man. But I mean, I appreciate it. It was cool. Got heaps of people showed love and like, oh, Rizzy Silver Scroll. I was like, I was like, oh yeah, it's the very song, but yeah, it's cool to see, see my name up there, but I can't even claim that.
Fatherhood, how has it changed you? Made you a better person? Is your son going to be a rapper?
Man, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know. I know they love music. Both of my boys, they're into their music. The little one is bit of a firecracker, but I just what I want to do is encourage and empower. Like I love my dad to bits, like with all my heart. But there was, no one's perfect, and even when you love your parents, you admire them. There's still things that they could have done better. And for me, one of those things was because he was so focused on education, and I'm grateful for that too. But he didn't give sports a chance for me because as a youngin, I was really into sports. But he didn't water that plant for me, so I didn't get that chance to like really play basketball, or I wasn't even allowed to play rugby. And like my first rugby game, he wasn't really like, why aren't you? I see you walking at the back there. That was my first game. I don't know. I didn't know how to play on that game. Like I just went because the boys were come play, come jam. Oh yeah, just going along. And then I had fun, and I was like, man, I should really learn how to play. And then going home, the ride home was like, you're too unfit. You shouldn't, you should probably try another sport. And I was like, did you play rugby, man? I had at the back of the van. Hey, criticism and trying to talk like you were like a special dean or something back in Tonga, But that was a good lesson because I feel like, and it's a hard thing for me to try to counter as a father to like empower and encourage because that was my template, my dad. Like the things that he did and even the things that he did wrong, it's in me because I watched it. That was my model. So it's a model of. So I'm trying to like go over that and encourage my boys to do what they want, whatever it is. Whether it's being a tradie, working in carpentry, being if they want to be musicians, and just being there for them, just being encouraging, supportive, like a lot of other parents that but yeah, no one's perfect. But that's definitely one of the things for me in fatherhood that I've learned is to just try to be supportive and help guide them through their marathon and their journey, and also just being being more selfless. I've always been I'm hungry. I want to go eat. Oh yeah, what do I want to eat? I feel like there's food in New Zealand, Vietnamese. Oh yeah, I want to go there and eat. Like that's just me. Like I'll go. I'll do what I need to do or like what I want to do. But as a father, you're supposed to, the kids first. And so I think that's probably a bad example, but it's just trying to like getting used to the idea of like being responsibilities and priorities. It's been a big thing. I think as a youngin, I ran away from a lot of responsibility, being the eldest son. And I was trying to like rebel as a youngin, got in trouble, pretty much almost got kicked out of home. Just didn't get along with my mom. My mom was just like, didn't even say, didn't have to even talk. It was just just that disappointment, and I was just like, man, I'm just like this man walking around the house, just like taking up space. You know what? I'm out. You know, I think, yeah, it's a massive learning curve, like going through life, and always lessons. Everything happens for a reason. That's my album. So when I said that I'm dropping a project at the end of the year, that's my last album. 10 years. I dropped my first Rizván project 2012, and this is 2022. And I think, bro, I'm not gonna expose myself and like put myself on blast, but I'm past the 30-year mark and I'm heading towards 40, and I just don't think I should be up on stage trying to rap. You know, at this age, I'm gonna bow out humbly and just do my last album. So those other projects, I called them EPs. You know, they're just like 7, 8 songs. So I'm gonna do a full album and drop it in October, and it's called Everything Happens for a Reason. Yeah, I don't think I would say that to anybody.
I'm excited, bro. Honestly, I can't wait. Like a full album. Oh man.
I think it's yeah. So like when you that's why you caught me off guard when you explained those bits that you picked up off of that intro song, because there was like a glimpse. And I think just like when you connect with people and there's layers, and it's slowly like peel back the layers and get to know the person. I know it's been 10 years and I've been doing my thing for a while, but I still haven't really shared myself as, you know, like, and it probably never will share to the core, but I really want to touch on some topics and subjects that I've never touched on or never explored. And I've never really talked about, fatherhood as deeply as deep before. Like, I want to really get into it and explore it creatively and create something, because these songs are like they're like monologues, you know. It's like memoirs, and I just want to leave like a good book or good like I don't even know what it's called, one of those diaries, like a journal.
Yeah, memoir, journal.
Yeah, and I think like if someone looks at my journal and reads it, I want them to see who I really am, what I've been through, and not filter it. But not just throw myself out there to the dogs to be like judged in that. But I feel like there's a lot of people that have gone through a similar journey and similar struggles, and who would be empowered by me sharing it, you know, in such a public medium, because a lot of people think they're alone in their struggles. A lot of people think they're isolated and they don't have anyone they can connect to. But man, there's so many people out there going through the same thing. And I think I'm blessed to have that platform. I'm blessed to have that microphone where I'm able to address things that are personal, but to the masses. You know, it's available publicly, and that's art. That's art. Like, people paint pictures that evoke emotion. People will sing songs that bring up memories, and you know, we do rap music. Does the same thing, sharing those stories and making those connections that resonate with the listener, the audience. Yeah.
You know, how do you look after yourself? I ask everyone this because, you know, when you're trying to find a balance and, you know, life is coming at you, you've got your craft that you continue to try and hone. Like, how are you looking after yourself? Yeah.
Oh, man. So the Navigators, I said before, we have like a corridor segment. After we do check-ins, highs and lows of like the last 7 days, we go into our corridor talanoa part where we just open the floor and I say, put your whatever it is you want to say. If we have something that's like weighing you down, that's heavy on your heart, on your mind, share with the group or share whatever you want and just put it in there for discussion, or even if it's just like random commentary. This is the space for you to, you know, to let it out. And even though I'm the facilitator, one of the facilitators running the program, that's my chance to unload too. Like I get to share my own thing, and I think because I'm a kaumātua, I'm a bit of an elder in the group. I always seem to have a sort of I don't know, like response to people when they share their own thing. Just I think because I'm an older person, I've been through a lot, and when people are like, "Oh man, I'm doubting myself," or like, I wanted to release this, but I don't know, like I'm not sure, and I already know what that feels like, so I can just pull that out of the vault and go, bro. There was one thing back in 1976 when it was, like I know that feeling, and I'll just go back to my diary and pull that page out. And look at this. Back in 2006, I was recording this demo, and I was like, oh, back in even 2013, I recorded a random song, and I thought, man, this is gonna go nowhere. I ain't gonna release this. It's just a random demo. And then the bro Melodowns heard it. He was like, bro, you gotta drop this. And he just boosted my confidence. I was like, honest? Yeah, bro, you gotta drop this. And I dropped it. And that's one of the songs that people love the most. And I'm like, if he didn't give me that little push, no one would have heard that song ever. So when these youngins share, I have my response, and then I'll just, I'll break stuff down, or sometimes it'll be deeper than that, and it'll be something to do with dramas with like the baby moms, or those sort of family issues, and I'll share my own issues, and without even knowing it, I'm kind of like therapizing myself. I mean, I don't even know if that's a word. It's like it's like therapy for me, so I can like open up and like tell them my story. And I feel like, and because I run 2 sessions, I get 2 opportunities. Like there 2 nights a week where I get a chance to unload, reflect, and almost meditate in a safe space with other people, other creatives. That's part of it. I get to talk to my wife a lot. Like she helps me. Yeah, we talk a lot, and we break down a lot of things. We unpack a lot of issues within ourselves, our views of the community, our identity. Some of the things that we talked about tonight is just the things that me and my wife talk about. You don't have to have a wife to talk about it. Like, it could be one of your boys, one of a cousin, a stranger. Sometimes I'll post up on Twitter and be like, "Hey, anyone want to chat? Hit me up." All good. I'm babysitting tonight, and my boy's asleep, so I'll be sitting here like, holla, like, all good, I know there's a bit confronting to some people, like, who the hell are you trying to talk to you? Like, man.
Yeah, I saw a tweet from you, and I saw a tweet that you actually, I think it was last week, and I guess some people responded because then you came back later and said, "Oh, I didn't realize there were actually people who were wanting to have an ear to listen to them, to someone to vent to." And then I saw another guy that I follow, like he was like saying to you, "Oh, I appreciate you," bro. And I was just like, "Yo, that's so cool," like sometimes that's all it takes,
Yeah, I mean, that might be a bit too random for some people, but there'll be people out there. And I got some responses, and I talked to a few people, and a couple of them, I have no idea who they are. And it was just a quick chat, like, bro, what are you up to? Oh man, love your music, bro. Like, and I was just like, yeah, what's up, man? Like, yeah, what are you up to? Oh no, nothing, just bored, or just tired from mahi, and like, and I was like, bro, all good, man, gotta do your thing, and just sharing my own, I feel like I'm just trying to help empower others, like, not just through music. We all need it though,
Right.
I'm not trying to sound like Mother Teresa or something out here. I had a spare 5 minutes or a few hours, like, why not? Throw it out there. If no one hits back, no harm done. Yeah. So that's part of it. We just gotta talk. We just gotta chat and let it out. Or
Very
draw,
powerful.
or rap, or sing.
Powerful, inspirational.
Or podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is it. We're just having a talanoa. Like, that's what we do.
So you've mentioned the exciting news with the album coming later, a full album. What are some other goals that you've still got? I know you've got some other goals, maybe not even music related, like
Yeah.
what are some future aspirations that you're kind of still working towards?
I want to get into film. I did a few short films, man, a few years ago. I never was trained in acting, but I did a few acting jobs, and I enjoyed it. It's just another form of telling stories. But I feel like, man, I really want to do like a Tongan version of the ʀᴇᴱ.
Oi,
Man, that's like
do
even
it.
just like cinematically, like man, the visuals for that is so crazy. I love the storyline. I love slow movies, like silence. You know, a lot of that movie, there's no talking. He's just walking through, or the girl's walking through the village, walking down the street, and just seeing the beauty in it. Like the cinematography is beautiful. So yeah, probably get into film, keep doing the youth work. I'll be here for a long time doing youth work. I think I found my calling. Like it wasn't intentional; it just happened. Um, yeah, my qualification is graphic design, and I still use it, but it's not. I didn't put enough time into it to say I'm a graphic designer. But the piece of paper is there, and but music and youth work. So once the music slows down, if people ask me, like if Diggy's like, bro, we're gonna jam a verse, yeah, bro, sweet. I'll jam a verse, or anyone else, or any of the youngins need me to try and make a beat or something, I'll still be jamming. I love DJing. I'm not an actual DJ, but I spin. I mix tunes, do a few gigs here and there. Just creative, just creative. Yeah, I've been blessed to be able to do this youth work and have a lot of time to spend with my family, with my wife and my kids, my boys, and yeah, life, man. Just gotta keep
Doing
pushing
life.
through ups and downs.
Yeah.
And hopefully me and you get to talk another like 2 years from now, and there'll be a whole nother story to tell.
Oi, hard, bro. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't wait. It's exciting to hear these things that you're talking about. It's so dope. Do you have a book recommendation by any chance, or
Yeah,
anything you want to
man,
promote?
I'm not gonna sit here and lie like I'm the biggest reader. Like I've read probably I could count with one hand how many books I've read in my life.
Right.
That's how bad it is. Even I think
Okay.
I was explaining before about rebelling from my dad. My dad's a real academic. Read this, read that, right there. It's like, nah, I'm not reading nothing. Yeah, so the book I'm going to recommend, and maybe someone else has already recommended this, is Mark Hunt's Born to Fight. I haven't read a book in definitely over 10 years. And I just bought that the other month, and man, I couldn't put it down. Probably like avid readers will be like, man, I need something more, but like that, the story was just compelling to me, and I feel like it just made me understand him and other people like him, and also just to not judge, because there was an incident with him and like people I know, and I just kind of like ever since then I was just like, man, that guy, I don't like that dude anymore, like, and I just judged. But then I read the book in the last couple of months, and I was just like, oh man, like you just don't know what people go through. You don't know their history. You don't know their story, and who are you to judge? So yeah, I just think it's just an awesome book to me. I love documentaries. That's my favorite like genre of film. Just watching docos, and this was just a cool documentary in words, just to like read his story and yeah, understand him.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, it doesn't, it's great to hear that you found a book that spoke to you, because, like even, I mean, I love to read, but man, like I recently just came out of like a 3-month slump where I just couldn't find a book that was just, do you know what I mean? I was just like, oh man. And then just recently I picked up this fantasy book that I had kind of seen at school and got hooked, and just the story it was a fantasy fiction, but it was very the themes behind the actual stories are like female empowerment. So yeah, it totally got me pumped, and ever since, and it was just like a few weeks ago where I just started reading again. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, bro, for sharing that.
All good.
We're starting to wrap up, and
Yep.
I just, oh, bro, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for just sharing. I feel like you really opened up and just shared so much. I appreciate you coming into the space, and feeling that it's a safe space for you just to be able to share a bit about your journey.
Yeah.
So inspirational. I encourage you just to keep going hard, with the work that you're doing in the community. I love seeing what you're doing. I'm a fan of your music. I love that you know there are people who are going to watch this and be like, yo, I'm going to look this guy up.
Yeah.
That's for real. So I just think your heart is in such a good place, and you're super humble, but you've done so much to impact lives of other people and inspire others. So continue to be that role model, and just keep going. I'm excited for this album that's going to drop later on in the year. I mean, bro, I could go on and on.
Nah,
But,
thank you.
I'm gonna give you your flowers, man. And
No, I really appreciate it. And thank you for letting me into your space. In terms of like sharing and opening up a lot. It's something I've been practicing for a long time, and I feel like it helps others to empower them to open up. I think I'm lucky that it's just me and you on this. If there was an actual audience, I'd be super nervous, but because it's just me and you, I think it helps. But yeah, as a youth worker, as an artist, that's just part of back to the legacy of what I want to leave is like let people know that it's all good to be yourself. It's all good to to share. And just like music, don't hang on to things. Like let it go. Don't let it weigh you down. Don't let it go stale and rot. Like this life will always carry on. So you gotta drop those things and move forward. And there's processes and all that, of course. But it's good to see other people doing it. So hopefully, if there's someone watching this and they see me being open and being as honest as I can and as comfortably honest as I can, then hopefully they're encouraged to do the same. But I just wanted to say, like when you were sharing that, there's bits about the intro song where I was tearing up because I've never heard anyone like pick some of my verses apart like that, and like. But because that song means a lot as well, those things that you brought up like really hit me, and I was like, "Oh, like like, oh, wait, hold on,
yeah,
I'm not ready."
I mean, like with your other, I mean, there were other songs that I had on my list here that I wanted to talk about, but as you were sharing, I was just like it made me think. I was looking at my notes on that song, and I was like, I feel like it's a combination of everything that you have shared so far in the interview, and I was just like, genius. Like it's of course it's life, you're just talking about doing life, and and you've talked about it, time is precious, and even like talking about bills, like worrying about bills, how are you going to pay bills, and having to make those decisions where you're like, there's commitments here. I'm resenting this here, but you know what? I actually have a family to look after. So that song, and just the fact that it was, the music that was dropped in 2019, and then thinking about when like the different, projects you dropped, I was like, yo. And then listening to you, I was like, man, that's why I chose that. I was like, I had questions about the other songs, that I had listened to, but I was just like, man, it's so powerful because I feel like those things you're talking about is what speaks to others. It will resonate with other people. You even talk about like that brown pride, and I mean, I feel like when I heard it and I was thinking brown pride, it could be two things. It could be like, yo, I'm super proud to be a brown, to be Tongan, to be Samoan and whatnot. But also it can have a negative thing where it's like that pride that we have sometimes it can also be like what holds us back and is our downfall. So those are just some of the things that I got from that. So as I listened more to you, I was like, yo, then, night and day. And
Yeah,
It's super powerful, bro.
man, that's out of it. At the end of the song, I'm doing like this little la la la. As I'm singing little bits, and then I got this audio clip of my granddad. He's no one. I turned it down so no one can really understand. I just wanted his voice at the end there because that's when he had passed away, and I feel like it's like we talked about my history of like how did I end up on the show and all that, and like that's my granddad, and on that song he's on there like his voice, and he's just telling me like giving me advice, like just to move forward, to do your thing, stand on your own too. He's in the hospital, and like randomly, it was years ago before he passed, but we had to visit him, me and my cousin. Then I just decided to press record on my phone and just talk to him. And it's funny because we talked about communication and the language, and my Tongan is better now, but during that time I was struggling to communicate with him. But it's like a good what's it called, timestamp of who I was back then to who I am now, and how strong I am with my own language and my own identity. But to kind of have him on that song was like super important, and yeah, just kind of just having him in spirit, through my music. But yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing the new music as well. So yeah, thank you for having me once again. Love it. Love the space. Love what you're doing, man. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yo.